Yeah, you probably go 14 because it's a gable.
Now let's say you're measuring from the ground. Now, so that you never confuse yourself in terms of denotation, how you want to denote your measurements on your paper, is I always use a little g next to the number when I'm doing a ground measurement. So I'll do something like g 14 feet. That way you know you got a ground measurement. In this case here, can I easily measure this measurement from the ground the same as on the roof? The width one, yes, right? Yeah, I mean, we're not multiplying anything there, right?
No.
The eave measurement, you can write that down. Your eave measurement, you don't use any multiplier on for the ground, okay? It's your rake end measurement that you are using a multiplier, right?
All right.
So let's say I'm on the ground.
What was that measurement? Eave measurement what?
The eave measurement, you don't use a multiplier. The rake measurement, you do. I'll just do this for now.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to draw out a quick little 3D house for you guys here.
He hasn't played Pictionary, has he?
Okay. So there's my shitty 3D house. Okay. So you're on the ground here. All right. Let's say you want to measure first. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to measure this across here. Okay. We'll call this A. Then we're going to call this roof line measurement B. Now remember that your soffit generally overhangs the actual siding, right?
Right.
So there's a couple ways you can arrive at these measurements. You can either attempt to place your measurement even with the very tip and run it all the way to the very tip and do that measurement, or you can measure from the actual corner of the house to the corner of the house and then add on 2 times the overhang. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so just for simplicity, let's say B equals 40. Same as last example, right?
Yeah.
But let's say this time from the ground you come up with A equals 14, and let's say we have a 12-inch overhang. So from tip to tip, because that's what we truly need, right?
Yep.
We need this measurement to this measurement. How many feet is that going to be then? 16 feet, right?
Yeah.
So now we got A equals 16, okay? Now, not to be confused, because before, remember, I was using A as only halfway across.
Right.
So I was using A as this measurement. Now I'm using A as the entire one. So it's really just a matter of semantics, but just so that you don't get confused. Okay. So technically, if I was, talking about my pitches and stuff here, we'd use half of A in this scenario to determine what our pitch was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But again, for pitches and stuff, you guys aren't going to have an hour out there to pull out your calculator and start doing sine and cosine stuff. Just pull out your pitch gauge, take out your multiplier sheet, and it'll be as simple as that. So in this simple scenario, let's determine what our roof angle is, assuming a 6/12 pitch. So what do we got here? What's the answer?
715.
Does that include waste?
The area? Oh no. 786. 72.
Okay.
Would you have 786 point?
Should be 781.
I rounded on the first one.
Including waste. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How many feet of ridge do we have here?
What's going there? 40?
40? Okay.
Well, it's going to be less.
Alright. So you guys are measuring this house out. I want to go with a Timberline 30-year shingle with the matching TimberTex ridge cap. Give me a price. And for your price, I want you to use $325 for the shingles.
You want timberline 30?
Yep.
And which one? What else?
The price tonight at $325. And the ridge cap price stay the same.
Is that with the lifetime guarantee too?
Yeah, so add on 125. I think that's what I got it at on here, right? Oh, no. Yeah, add $1.25 for the lifetime guarantee. Okay?
3005.
You should be, with the 125 added in, you should be at like about $29.43.
Okay. 63.
Yeah.
3005.
Yeah, you round it up.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what
rounded. Otherwise you'd hit
so.
7.81 squares.
Yep, it's all good.
And you're right there.
Alright. Next. Cut up roofs. Not every roof's gonna be that easy. So let's do one a little more difficult.
Bill's is. Well, there's one little door.
Okay. Alright.
And then throw a dormer on the front. That's a killer.
Let's see.
Two more valleys.
Alright, so the key to estimating, guys, you gotta draw it first. That's absolutely the first thing you're gonna do, is you draw it. So, let's get to the next slide here. So, kind of another rule of thumb is you're gonna want to group areas with the same pitch. That multiplier trick only works if they're the same pitch, right?
Right.
So you can group stuff together as long as they're the same pitch. Okay? If you can't, you can't. In fact, if you got a roof that's got like 3 different pitches, and you're probably not going to be able to measure it from the ground because you don't put it together. The idea here is you want to group things into very simple polygons. What are your most basic forms of polygons? Rattle a couple off.
What?
Polygons. Polygons? Shapes?
Oh.
Simple shapes.
Yeah, rectangle.
Rectangle.
Triangle.
Triangles. Right? Those are probably the easiest two.
Unless you get a mansard roof, then you got a weird.
Rectangle and triangle. Base times height. What's this one? 1/2 base height?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, pretty basic. Okay? So, when you're drawing out your roof, so you'll draw it out first, okay? You always use a solid line for ridge, and you use a dotted line for valleys. Can you guys visualize what this roof looks like?
Mm-hmm.
So, what kind of end here do we have? Gable or hip?
Gable.
Gable. How about here?
Yep.
Here?
Yep.
What's this?
Dormer.
Dormer. What are these?
Valleys.
Okay, perfect. Kids are doing great. So, in terms of the way you can actually measure these, is there's a couple ways. You can get on the roof and measure each individual plane separately. So, like this upper one here would be, you know, like that. You'd have to add A plus B, take the average of that, you know, and divide them. As you start getting into much more complex polygons when you're doing it that way, you'll end up with some like parallelograms and things like that. It gets really complex, and it's pretty easy to, excuse my French, but fuck up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that. So what we actually do is we're going to use our method, which is simple grouping. So I'm going to use a different color here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this into 2 rectangles. I'm going to draw an imaginary line across here.
Yep.
And I encourage you guys to get one of those 4-color pens for this reason. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do that, because then you can draw it out in black and then draw in your imaginary lines in red and stuff, and all of a sudden when you go back to your notes after you land the job, you don't have to start looking like, geez, what the hell is that? And everything kind of comes together. So get the 4-color pen. It's going to help you out. So if I draw these here now, it's pretty easy. I can determine this rectangle and this rectangle. As long as they're all the same pitch, I can group across boundaries like that, okay? Now if this was, say, like a 412 and this was a 6 and these were 4s, you can't do that. But as long as they're all 412s, then we can just do simple grouping. So now we're just back to what two shapes? So we got this shape here, and we got this shape here. So you don't have to worry about valleys, ridge, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. If it's all the same pitch, that's the absolute beauty of this program. So first thing you do is you hop on your roof and you measure from this point to this point. Say that's 60 feet, okay? So you draw out your original drawing and then you transfer it to your separate shapes. That's step 2. Let's say you measure across this point on the roof. Let's say, or on the ground for that matter. So you can do this one on the ground here too, right?
Yeah.
So if it's 10 ground at 412 pitch, what's going to be the total distance up over the roof?
Up over top.
Yep. Let me show you this from an end view.
10.54.
Yep. So remember again, A is 10. We're looking for C, which would cover that distance, right?
Yep.
So as my pitch goes from lower to higher, C is going to grow. So just remember your multiplier rule. So if we got 10 ground, we got 10.5 sky, right?
Yep.
Do we need to do a multiplier on this one?
No.
No.
No. Okay, good. In fact, if you start getting confused with the multipliers and stuff, you can just measure everything from the ground, multiply it all up, and then add your multiplier in at the very end. So that's kind of actually the way that I do it. So let's say that's 10 ground. Let's say this is 8 ground, 16 ground, 10 ground, 16 ground, 8 ground. Okay. So this now is going to become 60 by 10 ground